Welcome, everyone. It is Angela Robles. If you're live, 7 o'clock at night, I do love the lives. Please be interactive. This will be relatively longer form, and so much has happened. I have so much to share, especially from my travels into New York City hosting my first AI Masterclass of the year. Lots to share from that, lots of new things, and so much to do. Come August, I shall explain. So in June, we're still there for now. I spent 2 days in New York City with some incredible entrepreneurs, principals, and family offices. Besides my one off meetings, which were so valuable to me, I had a chance to host my June 23rd and 24th AI Masterclass, and families came from all over the US and around the world. It was my biggest masterclass ever, a peak, about 21, probably a notch too big. And it was immersive and deep and so much learned. And I want to share some of those experiences, ideas with many of you tonight. And without further ado, by the way, everyone, I'm Angelo Robles, host of That Family Office across most of my socials, especially YouTube. I hope you're all doing great. And the founder and CEO at my private intelligence and strategy community for primarily single family offices, SFO Continuity. My members, a special welcome. And if you missed it, you better make August. And on that note, without further ado, why don't we begin? So really, to me, it's the AI native family office. What the leading families, there's not many, but what they're building in 2026 and how you can do the same thing and really kickstart it in 2 days. This is the summer to build that or readapt into the AI native family office. And my next masterclass, August 12th and 13th. While others wait, while others relax in the summer, you build. Let me tell you what happened in June. We're still in June, not by much. And if you weren't there, let me tell you honestly what you missed because, I kind of want you to feel it. On June 23rd and 24th in New York, I spent 2 days with some of the finest entrepreneurs, principals, and family office executives, really to me in the world. Among the best families on earth coming to that room, names some of you would know, sitting across a relatively intimate boardroom table, the ones that you may even quietly be measuring yourself against. They were there, most importantly, humble, learning, and building side by side. And something happened I've only seen here and there in my really 20 plus years in the community. I've watched principals who spent 30 plus years, some of them building empires, who walked into the room, kind of the most powerful person in it, and kind of learn and almost go quietly to lean forward, to take notes really within the first hour. Because for the first time, they didn't just hear about AI or read about it, they actually saw it. And although we'd like to do more of this in August, began to build theirs, running, I believe, in sovereign AI on hardware and programs, we'll get to that they own. On the second day, imagine setting up agents that actually work, some of them structured overnight, while the room slept, some of them building a workable workflow application, a real one, walking in the next morning and having something like that finished, watching a highly successful family office principal even stare at the screen and say, like practically under their breath, like I had no idea. Let me show you, tell you what they saw the day that what this architecture actually produces. So picture it, because it really is the prize. Imagine, and really not that hard to set up. Imagine a principal waking up at 6. The phone has one notification, a single brief, assembled overnight by intelligence. The family directs, but never truly in the classic definition, was it's 24/7, 168 hours a week, has to manage. Maybe 12 minutes of reading, and those 12 minutes complete operational and situational awareness before anyone else in the ecosystem has probably opened up their laptop. Every relationship, every holding, every jurisdiction, every counterparty, if you want to set it up that way, watched effectively through the night. Anything you need to know is in the brief that early, before that first morning cup of coffee. Everything else was logged, structured, set aside without ever really touching, quote unquote, your attention. And then, like, you could walk into maybe that first meeting, having already pressure tested your position against, I could say, 3 frontier intelligence systems that argued it out. We call it battling in adversarial isolation, all while you slept. The counterparty's recent moves, their likely agenda, the objections you'll face if that's important, already mapped, answered, structured. By mid-morning, maybe you send one message, typed, or we'll get to this, you should be just talking to the AI, which is a lot of what we did in the 2-day masterclass. By the afternoon, work could be done, formatted to your family's exact standard, waiting 6 minutes for your review. And by 6 in the evening, we call that a short day. The work that requires you is perhaps finished. Not because everything is done, because everything that requires you can be done. And this is how you can have a 24/7, 168-hour-a-week powerhouse, pound for pound, incredible family office. Because the family office can kind of keep on working when you and the team aren't there. The agents keep running. Tomorrow's brief is already being drafted. The family office never sleeps, but I guess the principals and the employees can. It's not a forecast. It's not the future. This is what families ahead of you are running right now, here literally mid 2026, often on hardware. We call it sovereignty they own. And it's exactly what we build hands-on, much more so come August. I'll get to that in the room. As more people in family offices start working with the AI bar for what's acceptable work, listen up. So acceptable work, workflows on investing, taxes, risk mitigation, etc. This will all increase. It will be even less acceptable. Think about that, to present poorly thought through results. People who present sub-AI quality work will have, honestly, a hard time keeping their job. It just hasn't happened broadly yet. Because why? Because most family offices don't know how to use AI, like, really at all, let alone well. Just like in chess, the top people are going to get better and better, which is why I'm telling you now, even not at the end, but I'll do that too. On August 12th and 13th, no rest for the weary, our second one this summer, and an even better one as we got more under our belt and so much going on in New York. We're going to do it again, but go deeper than ever before. 2 immersive days, the same caliber of room, the best family offices, truly peers. And I want you in it. Here's my promise. I'll be specific. You can come to me at a 0 in your capability of AI with my books, one-on-one, the masterclass, and post follow-up, like never having written a prompt even before. It just won't matter. Convinced that this belongs only to younger or more technical people, start there. I don't care where you start. I care that you start. And in 2 days, taught hands-on, like on your setup, you will leave operating in the top fraction of 1% of family offices on earth. Not the top 10%, that's a low benchmark. The top fraction of 1%. Sadly, because the bar out there is so low that a serious family taught well pre the program, at the program, and has the initiative and actions to follow up, even in only those 2 core days of immersive in person, they vault past practically everyone from 0 to the front of the field all this summer, before the summer is even close to ending. We will teach you and you will build. We're going to make that a purpose in August, not just watch and take notes. What I've learned is they actually do want to build. We're going to do more of that. You'll walk out potentially with at least an app or system running. Now hold that. Let me earn it by teaching you right now more than most people take from a year of crappy conferences and often things they attend without getting things done and building and really progressing exponentially. First, the honest part, because you weren't handled gently on your way up, right? So like, why should I start now? There is a gap forming. Oh, it's not closing. It is widening every week. The families who began right now are compounding every decision, every conversation, every document at a pace others just structurally it's impossible to match. This is kind of the cruelty of compounding. It doesn't punish you loudly. It punishes you in silence. Think about that. Quarter after quarter, then kind of all at once. On the morning you look up and the distance, you might not be able to close. Now, I know the objections. AI hallucinates. AI is hype. My team is excellent. My advisors are the best. Of course they are. I don't need this, you may say. Every one of those in their own silo might have a grain of truth to them. And everyone is kind of besides the point, because while the skeptic, and skeptics effectively miss everything, prepares for the next objection, the family across the table isn't debating. They're building, they're doing. They're not getting ahead per se. Hear the word. They are permanently separating from the others. They don't just get ahead, they can make that gap permanent. So the real choice isn't technical per se. It's kind of human. It is ego or interest. And the principal who chooses humility over posture doesn't lose status. That person, he or she acquires the only advantage that still compounds at this level. At the moment, it pays the most. That is the choice I'm asking you to make still this summer, specifically in person on August 12th and 13th. Now the thrill, because the same fact that should frighten you, well, it should probably lift you as well. You're alive. You're alive in the first generation of human history with effectively 168 hours a week of, okay, a little bit of hyperbole, but we're getting close. Multiple Einsteins on call. Not really metaphorically, operationally. 24 hours a day, like I said, no scheduling, no billing, no politics, no sleep, no rest, no days off. 5 years ago, no family office on earth had this, even like 3.5 years ago. Not the Rockefellers, not the Pritzkers, not the largest family office on the planet. Today, everyone at least has the capacity to, and most of you are using it to effectively draft, and not even knowing how to do that at its optimal, emails. The capability was handed out equally. Remember that. The discipline to deploy it, that's not. That is the whole game now. It's not access. You have that. It's the discipline and desire. And it will never be easier than this morning. The tools are the weakest they'll ever be right this second as I'm recording this. And you are the earliest you'll ever get to be. This is your time. Not next year, not after the summer. You're better than that. It is now. Here is the principle that everything rests on. Your most valuable asset is perhaps not your portfolio. The holdings are really an output. What produced them is you or your family's thinking, its judgment, its memory, its patterns. It's learned often across decades. The painful mistakes, we all go through them. It learned never to repeat. A bad year can take the portfolio. Nothing can take the judgment and experiences that could even rebuild it. That is the real balance sheet, and it has never once appeared on, well, the before mentioned balance sheet. And here is the wound, that specific word. For a generation, the most sophisticated families on earth rented really that thinking. Think about it. Brought to it by the hour from advisors who walked out the door every evening carrying, really everything they had just learned about the family in their own heads, Your wisdom leaving the building at 6 o'clock, it may look like prudence. It was a slow leak, bleeding sometimes for decades. That thinking is data. It's yours. For the first time in history, you can own it completely inside your walls. Do not ever outsource your thinking. It's not a tip. It's kind of the first duty, I would say, of stewardship. How far have some of you of the world come using some of these resources? I mean, maybe there's 5 levels. Level 1, and most our family offices are not even here. AI as a truly good thought partner. 2, really a more of an assistant. Draft this, summarize that. 3, a team that runs first drafts and build reports. 4, the system itself, your workflows rebuilt from the ground up. 5, real agents. So we did demonstrate this in June, mainly with dynamic workflows. Agents managing agents, feedback loops that compound, a system that grows sharper every cycle while you sleep. Most who call themselves relatively AI native are maybe on rung 1 or 2 of what I described. Maybe talking to a machine and mistaking that for really doing, or AKA the real thing. Most family offices, including the great names, they're not even on that 5-step ladder I described at all. That isn't necessarily the bad news. It's the opening, because the ladder's empty. Step on now, and you climb alone while everyone else is at the bottom arguing whether the ladder, the AI, really is working and worth it. We could all climb this together in August. Now, that's one of the most important things about the truly significant quality and number of people that were in the room in June. It's learning together. It's sharing their successes and failures, perhaps with AI. It's during the event, someone out and joined me at the cigar bar. Well, Lord knows I like those, don't we? And some of the other little social activities we did, and the connectivity of the group to all within the group that we made, lifelong friends, confidants, an incredible camaraderie of sharing and learning in the room. One person had a recent exit and is creating now an AI native family office. We're truly in an amazing time, and it will never be weaker than it is today. Your mindset and the ability to compound. Before the summer's over, if you felt you missed it, June 23rd and 24th, I'm giving you a chance, and it's going to be better than we did in June. I would recommend people attend multiple. Once they're a member, they're good. Sometimes it takes that second or third time. And the developments and what I learned, and it wasn't perfect. We have things we have to improve on. I have to improve on. And I took many of those actions. I don't wait. I'm 24/7 kind of guy. Over the weekend, kind of somewhat revamping the curriculum and having more immersiveness and hands-on and actual building. And already can't wait as we broach to later summer in August. So you could still have the opportunity in the world of finance, a principal, an entrepreneur, a rising gen, an executive for sure within the family office to become, I said earlier, easily, because the floor is a little low there in the family office world. And people are resting in the summer. I'm not saying don't have fun, don't have family time, of course. I'm just saying amazing things are happening now. And for you to take advantage of this, for you to be, as an executive, employable and incredible and have optionality for yourself or in the world of finance, right now is the time. Having access to my 2 proprietary books that I totally revamped and needed to. Having access to me, pre-resources, then the Masterclass, and then the community and some hand-holding well before Labor Day here in the US in early September happens. You could be absolutely incredible before the end of the summer. You have to take the actions and initiatives with this. Now, let me show you a little bit what that climbing looks like, because every piece is actually buildable today. Kind of begin a little bit with what Those more fluid and attended my masterclass know as the second brain, the term most of you probably have never heard, and maybe the most important. Your first brain, your family's mind. It is brilliant, I hope, but mortal. It forgets, it retires, well, it does die. And for all of history, when the person who held the judgment was gone, the judgment often begins to fade away. The next generation, we open the wound, perhaps the founder had already learned to avoid and paid for the lesson twice. The second brain ends that. It's not a folder of files no one opens. That's garbage. It is a living institutional memory that doesn't merely store what your family knows and even really compounds upon that and enhances it, but reasons over it. And I mentioned compounds every day. Knowledge that used to die in generational transition compounds instead, perhaps century after century. And here is maybe among the most important words of all: a skill. A prompt is one instruction for one moment, gone the instant perhaps it's used. A skill that you create in AI, now we're getting a little deeper, is something else entirely. The whole repeatable, keyword repeatable, way you or your family handles a decision, written down once so the machine runs it the same way every time. We're talking Claude MD, Markdown files, skills, with or without the person who even holds it. And what is it physically? Nothing intimidating. Really, it's a folder, a plain text file. The engineers, as noted, would simply often call it a skill.md for Markdown, holding your family's method with whatever it needs besides it, owned by you in plain text, portable across any tool, readable by anyone you trust. Understand why this is among the most valuable things I could say today. Out of the box, the AI knows everything if you want it to. Now, out of the box now, it knows nothing about you. How many of you have created a second brain and a skill file? It may be brilliant, but it's generic if you don't do that. And it has never met your family. The moment you write down how your family actually operates, how you underwrite, what you learned never to judge, the way you read risk and read people, every one of those skills teaches the system how your family thinks. It stops being generic, which AI can be if you don't know what you're doing, and becomes yours. Every other layer of this makes your family office faster. This one makes your family's judgment permanent. The only asset you will ever build that is designed to outlive the people who built it. We spend, and will more so in August, but really those of you that sign on early leading up to it, major enhancements to my proprietary books on this. We spend in real time in the room. We could write your first ones. You could even leave, I guess, with a sample of one. Oh, but you say I'm not technical. Good. The wall just came down. For years, the real constraint was really never the model's intelligence. It was the keyboard. It's gone. It's old news. You speak to it now. And speaking isn't just faster and more native and natural. It's kind of how thought leaves a human in the first place. You compose out loud the way you brief a brilliant chief of staff without noticing. Many tools, Whisper being one, turn your voice into instruction running on your own machine so your voice in your meetings never touch a stranger's cloud. I don't know how much time we'll have to get to that, but sovereign AI and controlling that, we'll get a little bit to it. The barrier was never your intelligence. It really was the keyboard. I know it sounds weird. It's true. And clear thinking, spoken plainly, has always been your edge. Now, the architecture, so to speak, has three layers. Skills are, why don't we call it the verb? One capability owned. Workflows are the sentence. And how verbs chain together with approvals. Agents, AI agents are the paragraph. The orchestrators that decide and how you structure and set it up, all things we go into. And my books go deeply into what runs and when. And the discipline almost no one states. Build downward, skills first, workflow second, agents last. The market builds the glamorous agent first and orchestrates workflows that often don't exist, calling that skills the family never wrote, a dazzling memo that does nothing reliably. 10 sharp skills beat one flashy agent on an empty foundation every day. The agent might be the ceiling. You build it on layers that effectively hold your own weight. And here is where last week in June, the room went silent. You don't deploy one agent, you deploy a swarm. Hand over an overnight diligence mandate even before dinner. And while you sleep, you could have 19 agents with Perplexity Computer go to work in parallel. One pulling filings across multiple jurisdictions at once, another running management background, a third tearing through financials, a fourth mapping out every counterparty. The system built this for scale. Imagine to hundreds of agents we illustrated using dynamic workflows within Claude. The ease and power of that, hundreds, literally hundreds. Your most capable analyst, now imagine 300 of them, working 168 hours a week, never tiring, never duplicating, feeding one brief that's waiting, again, maybe that's 6 o'clock for your coffee. And really not just one mandate, a surveillance swarm runs continually. One agent on each holding, on each relationship, on each position that matters all night, every night. The family office stops being something you operate and becomes even something that operates while you live, while you sleep. This is what you'll stand up, even in your own hands, as we're even revamping the masterclass for this level of immersiveness, August 12th and 13th. And notice what that does to the economics, because it's the quiet revolution under all of it. Intellectual labor is being demonetized. The analysis and drafting that used to cost, I've been in this business for decades, $1 million perhaps in attorney and consultant hours, now may literally, we've seen it, cost hundreds of dollars in compute. The only sliver you still pay for, maybe that top 5%, counsel review, local execution, discretionary judgment, all important for sure, which means taste and judgment, knowing what to build and why becomes the entire skill. The machine does the labor, you do the deciding. And the deciding has always, it's been your gift. That does not make the principal or anyone less important per se. It makes those, or the principal, the only, and the family, the only thing that really matters. Now, in being precise, because here is where sophisticated families get seduced, I think, into often the wrong choice. There is an easy path. The frontier model companies will host all of this for you, and they're powerful. I use them too. Managed agents, the before mentioned dynamic workflows, run on their cloud, sparing you the engineering. Generally good products and valuable, but understand what it means. Your agents, every action, every entity name, every live position, every counterparty, your succession architecture, of course you have that, lives on infrastructure you don't control, you kind of rent. Possibly bleeding into the cloud, training a platform. So the craft lives really in one seam. The sensitive work stays down on the floor you own and never leaves it. Only sanitized, stripped down, non-identifying questions go up to the frontier models, the Anthropics, OpenAIs, Gemini, Grok, etc. The cloud gets the math problem without the names. You got to know how to do that properly. And when the cloud touches anything sensitive at all, it's used as a kind of a ciphertext. Your machine seals it and the provider holds a block it can never read and was never given the key to. But you got to know how to do that. But the protection isn't necessarily contractual promising. It's architectural. The vendor never has kind of the real information. That is sovereignty properly understood. Not a wall around everything, a disciplined line. You own the floor. You rent the ceiling carefully. The floor is kind of where the family lives. And one word that ends the anxiety everyone carries, kind of the fear of betting on the wrong tool. The agent runs on, we go over all of this, effectively what's called a harness. There are excellent ones for sovereign, where you own the hardware and want to keep it never touching the cloud, real proprietary. Much of my work is built on OpenClaw and Hermes. There is another. I mentioned I've gotten more and more into Hermes lately, a real incredible program, which now ships as a clean desktop app. You point at the brain before mentioned on your own machine, so the intelligence stays home and the only control travels in your hand. But the harness does not matter in a way that you fear, whether Hermes or OpenClaw or creating your own using Pi with your own engineering team. What comes next is really interchangeable. What's durable is everything underneath your skills before mentioned, your standing mandates, your second brain. You really have to know how to do that. Your real sovereign foundation, the tool you build on this year, like maybe gone next year, or there's better options, but you rebuild nothing because the architecture was never the tool. This is why you don't wait for the dust to settle. The dust never settles above. The dust never settles above. It doesn't have to. Build the floor once, swap the tools above it forever. And now, the truest thing in this entire address, if we may call it that, and what I've learned in 100 family office ecosystem that I've worked with over decades, and almost no one would say out loud, the hardest part of building is not some of the expenses for sovereign and the hardware, the models, or the architecture. It's the people who already serve the family well and who are right to wonder, what does this all mean for them? The resistance, even if discreet, will come, but not necessarily as opposition, as prudence. The long-tenured controller, the only one who really understands the books, raises careful concerns about accuracy and oversight. The trusted advisor who engagement assumes you can't run an analysis without him or her counsels patience, a slower pilot, so to speak. The chief of staff whose value has always been control of the information flow worries sincerely about what happens when the information flows on its own. None of them act, I would hope, in bad faith. They protect the value they spent years building. It is simply that AI has quietly repriced the exact thing each was valued for. And a family office often is small enough that one quietly unconvinced senior person, can stall the whole effort indefinitely with nothing but caution. Not a call to clear the office. Most are excellent and worth keeping, but understand the resistance. The large Fortune 500s are having it now. Understand there will be resistance before you meet it, because it will be sincere. It will even sound like wisdom, and it will cost you your most valuable years if you mistake the grief for guidance. I'm just speaking facts. Leading the family through that is the principal's job, the leaders, the family. It's also one of the hardest things to do alone, which is why being part of the right room, the right group, why it matters. Let me show you, continuing from prior, why all of it, I think most of it, should run on hardware you own with a real event that's not hypothetical. There is a class of the most powerful frontier public models in the world, Mythos from Anthropic. And the first release to the public, it was called, you know this, 2 weeks ago, Fable 5. Extraordinary capability. It was so good. The kind where families were beginning to build real operations on in the short 2.5 days. And then just weeks ago, here in June, government issued an export control directive where that Fable 5 was switched off overnight in a single afternoon. Gone for everyone, all of you renting on Frontier models, not for anything that you did, a decision made in a building that you will never enter, even as a multi-billionaire, by people who never heard their names. Imagine that was your family. You'd wired your operation to a model that you thought was awesome and short-term kind of was, but you rented and you woke up to find it was gone. It happened to me. That is the whole thesis, felt instead of heard. The model you rent can be taken from you overnight without appeal. You have no control. The system that you own cannot. The models are the ceiling keeps changing. It can be switched off above your head by the government or anyone, quote unquote, in an afternoon. The architecture you own is the floor. The floor is the only thing that lasts. Build the floor. And no worries, my books, me, the Masterclass, even your peers walk you through all of this. You know, I like to say in my training, and many of you have heard it before, I'm a 60-year-old, not a techie by any stretch. Yet I've learned to master the Frontier and Sovereign, the hardware, the OpenClaw, the Hermes, the paperclip that goes with it, Obsidian, Weaviate, other platforms for memory and institutional memory. Oh, it's hard. Sure. It's my job to keep up on it and to share my experiences, good and bad, with my my members, my private community. But if I could do it, you could do it. I built many apps. One I got even up on the App Store. That was a little bit of work. And that's when it was hard back in October, 9 months ago. That feels like forever. It's so much better now. You need to go from just chatting, and you probably don't do that well. We'll teach you how to do that incredibly. And I gave you some tips with Second Brain, markdown files, skills here, but and knowing how to have the system prompt itself and how to work with multiple, even if it's Frontier AIs, which, by the way, they could really raise your price. You have no control. You let it rip 168 hours a week, you will have a big bill. In Sovereign, you have to have the hardware, a little bit more hands-on and work initially. And effectively, other than your energy cost, it's free. No, don't go to these open weight models where you're tying in, often they're from China, to API. You don't want to do that. You'll learn how to use Olama and Hugging Face, how to properly download the open weights, and how to use great American models like NVIDIA's recent program and initiative in the space. And there's others, OpenAI, even Llama. But it's getting competitive. They're out there. Now is the time. Again, if I could do this, if I could have a swarm of agents, and I'm creating this with no forward deployment engineer or AI engineer, and it's gotten easier, but there still is nuance to it, some level of science and art. And do you want to go through what maybe could be, like with me, hundreds of hours and not have any help from experts like my faculty and your peers that are going through the same journey? Is it worth it for you to be a member, to have access to all 3 or 4 of these masterclasses that I host through the year, all my proprietary books, including the 2 specifically collectively over 400 pages, completely revamped? My members, you'll be getting this July 1st or 2nd in a couple of more days. My 4 days in Palm Beach, my programs in New York, Cayman, Vienna, and other assets and resources. Now, coming a little bit back to the core focus of being here. It's not about the software. It's about whether your family's mind survives with what I'm talking about. Whether the way your grandfather read risk and your mother read people becomes infrastructure your descendants inherit, or dies quietly with the people who carried it, while your great-grandchildren, it's going to feel like they're starting over, ignorant of everything you knew and your family knew. You're not deciding about a tool. You're deciding whether the single most valuable thing your family owns, as I mentioned earlier, carries forward or is lost. To wait is not neutral. To wait, you're choosing. It's a choice you're making. And it's the most expensive choice that you'll ever make quietly because you're not taking action. While others are resting and sleeping this summer, I don't want that to be you. So here's what I'm asking. The world, as I noted, is going to rest in the summer. It slows, it drifts to the water and mountains, right? And that is the gift, because while the world and the others, your peers and competitors, rest, you can learn, you can create, you can build. The distance you put between your family, does that matter to you? And your profession, your career, and the field in the next 2 months, while everyone else prepares and other objection from a beach chair compounds generation after generation. I promise it. I guarantee it. You're smart enough to pick this up, and you're going to put in the work to make it valuable. So again, it's up on my website, August 12th and 13th, New York City. Among the best families in the world, true peers, 2 days, immersive, you build. More than what I did in June. You won't leave with a notebook. You leave with a system that you could create, learn, create, build. Those aren't just words in a brochure. I mean, they're kind of the 2 days themselves. Give me those 2 days, and my team is better than me. And act before and after them, and I will change the trajectory of your creation, of your family office, your entities, period. Not just subtly improve it, change it. And understand what you're joining. Not a course you attend, but a community. I've been doing this for decades, of families who decided together to own their intelligence instead of renting it, if you believe in sovereignty, build deliberately over many years for exactly this moment. I've spent the past week, as I said, rewriting my books from the ground up to hold everything I've shared and far more. And members, well, in a couple of days this week, will have them with the full resources and direct access to me, the team of faculty and their peers. You don't really need to wait until August. You begin before, you build through it, and you compound long after. Let me leave you with the only thing that finally matters. History is putting one question to your family right now. Whether you answer it or not, will you own your mind or forget and or rent it? The families who answer correctly in this narrow window, and it's maybe a narrow window, while the latter is still empty, trust me, it mostly is, are the ones who will look back on this decade as the one where perhaps they pulled ahead permanently. The ones who hesitate, 99% of you, will spend the next decade, I could argue, chasing a gap, compounding that maybe compounding already made unclosable. I think you have already done the hardest part. You've decided, or you wouldn't still be watching or listening to this. What remains is simply to begin. So while the world rests this summer, you will learn, you will build. Come do it with us in the same room as among the best families, entrepreneurs, principals, rising gen, family office executives on earth. This August 12th and 13th, the very moment you join and become a part of the community. Own your mind, build the floor, as I noted. Carry your family forward. I hope to see you all in that room. So yes, June 23rd and 24th, it's past. I had by far the biggest attendance, maybe a little too big, as I noted, for a boardroom that I ever had. I did not say it was perfect. There's so much I learned, so many notes I took. And I just couldn't wait to get back and revamp the curriculum, update my books, which was easily 20 plus hours this weekend, and look forward, which I got from the feedback of more even more immersiveness and hands-on in building, and a little bit more post-help. So there's lessons learned for me. I have questions. I don't always have the answers. I'm a lifelong learner and very curious. And when I started the journey really 2 years ago down more the AI front, and even wrote my first book last summer, laughable now, the changes that have occurred really since October of 25, and then especially since February of this year, are earth shattering. I have to spend a lot of time on this, a lot. It is, luckily, I don't sleep much. It's somewhat overwhelming. And like, I'm waiting for my peers. They're just like not there yet. Some will be, some new entrants will arrive. I could use a line chasing me. Bring it on. So, sure, I could talk about family governance, family dynamics. I love me family office structuring. I love offshore structures, family office satellites, love to travel the world. We all know I love geopolitical subjects, macroeconomics, investing, all important, all a part of what my membership gets around some of my proprietary content, my programmings, my incredible speakers. I got an amazing speaker coming up in September in New York, so we're excited about that. But yes, underlying effectively all of that is AI. I'm just afraid, has this passed many of you by? Do you feel it's just one giant bubble? Maybe on some of the investing things, it may get interesting. There'll be winners and losers. But this is the direction. This is the operational capability, the Einsteins at your fingertips, the resources, the biggest, baddest single family offices in the world 3.5 years ago did not have. This is only 3.5 years old. Do you know how far it's come? And what, a couple of times a year you put a sentence in and a prompt, a bad prompt, and you're not happy with the result? It's so much more. And learning all this from my books to obviously the masterclass, and then going from chat to doing things and seeing that literally within half an hour with Anthropic's Claude and knowing how to use Claude code and understanding their dynamic workflows, literally putting up to hundreds of agents to work. But if you really want to be sovereign, which I do understand, the ability of knowing what hardware, it's more than just Apple. And Apple, you got to wait so long now. Look at what AMD's doing. Look at what NVIDIA's DGX Spark. Understanding the open weight models. Now, GLM 5.2 is quite the monster. You're probably not going to have the computer horsepower for that. And do not API with it. You're crazy coming from China. You have to learn how to use Olama and Hugging Face. You have to learn US and non-US open weight models, where they're good at for execution, but where you still may need some of the frontier models for orchestration. Learning about these harnesses, creating from your own pie, using resources like I know with OpenClaw on Hermes, going to GitHub and using some of the amazing resources that are on there, all things we discuss, we talk about, and we show you. Like, maybe we need to make this 3 days moving forward in the future. For now, it's 2. And no, it's not too late. Not too late, but you do have to join. You do have to go to angelorobles.com and become a member. And you get so much more than just the upcoming and other masterclasses that I noted earlier. I've been doing this a long, long time. I'm relatively creative. I'm very interested, curious, and I am all in. You can never question my passion or dedication. You may question my IQ once in a while, some decisions that I make. I'm obsessed about this. I am all in, all in. And it feels like it's changing every day. Better and better. But for you to get the mindset now, to get the compounding of the capability, I'm glad I created apps and got it on the App Store. And when it was hard, it helped to teach me. And even now, although I'm trying to simplify it, I'm throwing a lot at you and certain things, of course, on the cutting room floor. There is an art and a science to this. And I want to save you the time. Now, some of you have asked, as a non-principal or family, especially single family office executive, hey, Angelo, we need to be a member, but we may not qualify as a member. We'll take in one or two people at each masterclass that may be from a discipline of a GP in finance, a hedge fund manager, accountant, or attorney that will pay a fee. Nothing for free, I'm sorry. So you reach out to me, and that's a one-on-one, whether you want to DM me or send me an email, and we could discuss what that could look like. So like I said, even heading into June 23rd and 24th, this summer, you could become incredible. It's not too late. Why not join now? Get the books now. Get more prepared for August. And then I got another one coming up on November 4th and 5th. And then I hope to be in Florida doing this first quarter of next year. You get all of that, plus my 4 days in Palm Beach. And again, I wrote the family office playbook, the creating a top 1% family office. It's not only AI. I have a deep Rolodex. I've been doing this for a long time, but AI is right now where I'm putting the time, and that has implications to all of that, all of that. And what happens when I think with OpenAI, with their 5.6, with their ChatGPT 5.6, and eventually I think Fable 5 are kind of released, although maybe somewhat neutered, it's going to raise the bar yet again. And then what happens after that and after that? And in the past, that was like 6-month waits. That's laughable now. These are changing on average about every 30 to 40 days. They're exponentially getting better. You cannot afford to fall behind. You at least have to jump on in, put in the work, and decide what you want to implement now, which may be just a little bit. And maybe the frontier models are the lower hanging fruit. But we teach you where to take that first step, where to get more comfortable with agents, where a lot of these systems are. And I didn't even have a chance to get into Bolt.new to Cursor, all things we talk about in my books in the masterclass. But again, I'm trying to keep this under an hour. Of course, I'm going to do more relative to this on my platforms leading into August. But I also have so many other subjects that I have queued up that I wrote that I kind of want to get to. So I'm also going to start to relax and do some videos, maybe outside, do live Q&A, maybe when my cigar's finished in 30 to 40 minutes. I tend to smoke fast. Then the Q&A is done. I don't know. Want to try some new things. But I do know, do not, like the big hedge fund managers in my backyard of Greenwich, although I poker buddies with some of them, and that's a different discussion. Do not just run to the Hamptons in Europe and what, like you're going to sweat like crazy with no air condition anyway. You have to see this. Why did Sergey Brin go back to Google? He's worth hundreds of billions of dollars, because this is it. This is the time. Do not be like 99% and just completely, I'm going to wait. You're going to procrastinate. That's not what a winner does. And you may be incredibly successful. That's no guarantee what this new world, how it's shaping up, the impact of AI, what you're going to look like in 6 months, a year, and 3 years. Now, the one thing that I do want to see more in August, by the way, there was a brother combo that came. There was multiple people in some family offices. We want to get back to also more your children and grandchildren. Now, we do have scheduled a 22-year-old coming. We had, by the way, a 20-year-old scion heir of a prominent family in Europe that came. Like, bring your young ones. I'm inclusive in my membership in terms of what you could have attend to receive my assets and resources. I want the young ones, 16, 17 years old, to be involved. Don't just send them away gallivanting this summer. Yeah, you could do some of that. Have them get to work a little bit. Is this a once in a lifetime opportunity? And what's it going to look like the end of this year into next year? This is your chance to have an edge, because the world of finance and family offices, it's so stodgy. It's gotten so old and slow. It is not going to adapt, partially due to ego, ignorance, and fear. There is going to be, like I said, some resistance, like we're seeing in the Fortune 500 companies, not really knowing how to use AI, spending money like crazy on only frontier models, and kind of having some internal sabotage. One of the Moonshots podcasts about 3 weeks ago mentioned this and discussed setting up a digital twin. I don't think family offices should do that at the moment. There's no need to, I hope. That's a little sneaky. We don't have time to really get into that. But as an executive, you have to take this as a challenge. Easily by the end of the summer, maybe even in 2 weeks. That's my books and some one-on-ones. Easily by the end of this summer, you'll be top 1% in the family office world relative to your fluidity. And you'll be creating apps and agents. Like it's moderately easy, but there's again a science and art to it. And I want to save you maybe the dozens or hundreds of hours. So is that worth it for you? Is that worth it for you to go to angelorobles.com and join? And that is the key to get in. Again, some exceptions for non-family offices. Reach out to me one-on-one in a DM or email angelo@angelorobles.com. Or again, I'm very accepting. Bring it on. My real phone number, a text, same number on WhatsApp. And I'm at Family Office on WhatsApp, but it's 203-570-2898. I'm kind of 7 days a week. I'm on this all the time. And I got to wrap up those books and get them to my members, all those updates. I think I'm committing to July 1st, a nice clean date in a couple of days if you're watching this live. I do have an interesting live, I think, if he stays with it. A special guest tomorrow morning. It's going to be early. Maybe the leading authority on cybersecurity for family offices. He's great. Of course, we're going to talk about Mythos AI, but so much more. And that's adjacent, of course, to the AI space. So you're all the best. I appreciate some of the kind comments. We have a pretty significant audience with us tonight. I have not been as active in the last month. I've been traveling, one hosting the Masterclass, but to Denver and other parts of the country. And I got to do some more things remotely, even if they're not my usual long form. It's good to keep in the flow and keep active. And I do want to be even more concise in some of my messaging moving forward. So much to discuss. Again, go to angelorobles.com. Don't wait. I had one person, they're incredible, kind of just found out about it in like 2 days prior to the Masterclass, joined and flew into New York. That was a great move. Hopefully we'll see them again in August, where, again, I'm the first one to say, imperfect, understanding that, making rapid advancements and improvements. I'm so excited about the new updated books, the new curriculum and program, and what we're putting together August 12th and 13th, and how immersive it is, and why I think it is important to attend a block of 2 or 3 of these to really, and we had Jonathan is his name, one person who now attended 4, and his level of capability from the first one last June to now, and he was highlighted a little bit at the Masterclass, is like shocking. Like it's incredible in 1 year. Actually, one of my instructors is a real single family office executive. His first name is Matt. Many of you that were there, he joined us the first day. He attended the first full program Masterclass last year and was already moderately fluid and now is incredible. And what he's building, oh my God. These are the people that you meet. Maybe lifelong friends, cohorts, relationships, opportunities together, learning and sharing. Is that worth the cost of membership to you? And by the way, they were all members that I'm describing. I think the answer is yes, but your call. I hope you enjoyed it. Go to angelorobles.com. Thank you all for the kind comments. Appreciate you. All good. Thank you so much. And a shout out. And again, I don't know if they want their names blasted out. I gave some first names, but our core instructors, Sam and Greg, did a tremendous job. Tremendous. Of course, we want to get better. We're taking, like I said, I had a completely effectively, well, not completely, but a significant upgrades and edits to my books, partially due to the great job they did and so much that I learned that I'm already implementing and doing. And we look to have them back and others and have world-class instructors And we're always looking to get better, and it will be even more immersive and building August 12th and 13th. I appreciate all of you. Thank you all for your time. Have a wonderful evening.